Good morning and welcome to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and follow our page to stay updated to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and recently in the news, we saw that a woman lost her life savings because she thought she was in a relationship with Brad Pitt and sent money to help him out. With Valentine's Day around the corner, we wanted to ensure that your heart and money is protected always. So that's why we'll be discussing exposing the truth about romance scams in Trinidad and Tobago. Today, we're joined by Nigel Stoddard. He is the director of the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago, also known as the FIUTT, and has been involved in the area of AML, CFT, and CPF, which I am going to ask all these questions later on, what these acronyms mean. And not to worry, guys, we have documents for you to download this time. And he has been supervision over those acronyms over the last 25 years. We're also joined by Maria Samaru Ramrattan. She is the senior analyst at the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago with over 16 years of experience in analysis and intelligence. So let's bring them in. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, we're good? Yeah,
Good
everybody
morning,
feels
yes.
good today?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So we're going to go straight into it because we only have an hour and there's a lot to cover. And for those who are joining us, not to worry, if you have any questions, slide into the comments and we will ask our guests today. You guys know this. We do this all the time. You know the drill. All right, so the first question is, what are romance scams and why have they become so prevalent in Trinidad and Tobago?
All right, so romance scams, and welcome to all the UN audience. So romance scams are basically scams that persons perpetrate on unsuspecting victims, uh, involving the use of emotions, romance, uh, for those persons who may be victims, may be seeking some level of comfort or relationship. And of course, the end result of the romance scam is for the perpetrator to get money from you, from the victim, to themselves. In a nutshell, basically, that is what romance scam is about.
Thank you so much for that, Nigel. I want to ask Maria, what do you think about the typical profile of scammers operating in these types of scams?
Right. So, in terms of profile, and going into the whole cycle of how romance scam occurs, we could identify profile as being one, a person who is the actual person that they in contact with, which we refer to as the online lover or friend. Another profile could be one of the shipping agent or the courier. And the third would be the third party account holders. So, because of the dynamics in terms of this romance fraud, a typical scammer could be one of those three persons because we would like to say that it operates more like a organized network, and it's almost as if each person has a role to play. So, in terms of the online friends, we would have where these persons would be creating profiles. Of course, in most cases, it's a fictitious profile with an identity that they either created or assumed from someone who actually exists. So that could be one profile in terms of how that person is a scammer, a fraudster. We also have profiles of the persons who purport to be the shipping agents, and that will come in when the actual love and affection has built, and then they move towards actually getting the money from the victim. And then the third, in terms of the role that they play, would be the third party account holders. And these are the persons who actually facilitate the transactions in the sense that money are received into their accounts from the victims.
It's interesting because, I mean, we've all seen it where we have a friend say, they've been hacked or this person is really not them. And we usually associate this with celebrities. But in reality, if you see someone asking you for something and you see the name familiar, it's unlikely that you're going to question who that is. So I want to expand on this a bit, Maria, and I want to find out what makes individuals vulnerable to these scams, and are there specific groups that are being targeted?
In terms of what makes persons vulnerable, so we'll go back to the person profile. So these fraudsters would usually target persons from our analysis. So just to give a background, the FIUTT, in looking at romance scams, we would have analyzed for the period of 2020 to 2022 a total of 96 STRs, which would have identified 268 victims. So from this analysis, in terms of looking at the victims, we would have seen that the majority of the victims would have been females, followed, but notwithstanding, we did have males that would have fell victim to this type of scam. In terms of what we would say would make them vulnerable would be a number of factors. One would be, of course, these persons are usually lonely or looking for companionship. Two, they are not aware of these type of scams that take place, so they actually would fall victim to the whole intent of the scammer, which is to gain that love and affection from the victim, where they would fall for these type of scams. Again, in terms of looking the analysis, we would see that the age group would tend to be more elderly persons. In terms of marital status, either separated, divorce. So in terms of these are all factors that we would have noted from our analysis in terms of persons falling victim to this particular type of scam.
So Maria, you may not know this, but I represent the people. So you have to tell us what STR is, because you're saying these acronyms. That's okay. That's why I'm here to represent the people. Can you share with us what STR means?
Right, sorry. Okay, so STRs is suspicious transaction reports, or STRs. We also refer to it as suspicious activity reports, so SARs. So what at the FIU, we receive these STRs, or suspicious transaction reports, from our reporting entities. Our reporting entities being our financial institutions and our non-regulated FIs and listed businesses. So all these are reporting entities to the FIUTT, who would file SCRs based on activities that they're seeing, which is basically where we get our information from, the majority of our information from. We also have, sorry, not to cut you off, we also have where persons from the public could also submit voluntary information reports, or VIRs, and we would have had a couple of those as it relates to romance scam as well.
Okay, thanks for that explanation, Maria. And for those who are now coming in, that's okay. We will share some information as it relates to reports and things that are being discussed via the comments, and you can have a link to download that, as well as you can sign up, because it's better to just have it delivered to your email. So I want to step back a bit and go off script with Nigel and find out, what is FIUTT? Because we are talking about the Financial Intelligence Unit, but most of us know what CIA means and what it is based on movies. But for those of us who don't know, can you share with us what exactly is this organization and why we should know about it?
So the FIUTT, or Financial Intelligence Unit, the FIUs are a part of another acronym, which is the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force. They produce recommendation, which is an international best practice standard that countries have to implement. The 40 recommendations that they put out are what countries basically transmit into their legislation. And that's AML, CFT, and CPF, which stands for anti-money laundering, counter-financing of terrorism, or counter-proliferation financing. Recommendation 29 of the FATF states that every jurisdiction or country must have a financial intelligence unit. And it's a must. Not having one can deem your country to be rated in a certain aspect as to be low and may end up on the FATF public statement list. Trinidad and Tobago, in complying with FATF Recommendation 29 in 2009, passed legislation, the Financial Intelligence Unit Act of Trinidad and Tobago, establishing a financial intelligence unit in Trinidad. One of the criteria or requirements of the FATF Recommendation 29 is that a FIU, or Financial Intelligence Unit, must be the only agency in the country to receive financial intelligence from the reporting entities, as Maria would have described before, with the common language, from the banks, from the insurance companies, from the credit unions, from the lawyers, from the car dealers, jewelers, attorneys. All those are reporting entities that report suspicious transaction reports to the FIU in Trinidad and Tobago. There are 177 FIUs throughout the world, and we operate under the remit of the Egmont group of FIUs. And based on that 177 currently, we exchange financial intelligence and information with each other on a secure website. So in other words, if it is that we are doing an analysis in Trinidad and it's relating to someone in Finland, there is an FIU in Finland that we can reach out to. And likewise, if FIU in Germany needs information from FIU in Trinidad, we would provide that information as well. So in general, that is what the FIU in Trinidad and Tobago is about. In addition to that, we do AML, CFD compliance supervision of the listed business sector.
Okay. And is it safe? I mean, this is definitely a learning experience to me as well. That's why I love the show, because I learned so much. Is it safe to say that as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, it is important to know about the FIU and to be aware? Because, it's one of those things where you really don't want to call a doctor, but when you do, it's like it's too late, because you need to be able to have whatever you have fixed. So is it something that someone should actively search out, like, okay, I'm going to go to the FIUTT website to learn more about this?
Yes, that's a good question. And yes, definitely, you should. There's a lot of misconceptions out there in Trinidad and Tobago, and sometimes outside, of what the FIUTT is about and what our function and powers are. We in Trinidad and Tobago, our FIU model is administrative. And being administrative, it means that we are an intelligence gathering agency. Our function is to receive, analyze that information or intelligence, and then disseminate to law enforcement and foreign FIUs. So suffice to say, what someone might see in the public or someone might hear in the public, that the FIU, I've seen it a lot in the papers, the FIU was on an exercise and raided someone's house and searched someone's house and arrested someone and detained cash and all these activities, which are not under the functions of the FIU. Those are strictly within law enforcement. There is a financial investigation branch that of the police service that conduct those types of investigations. So the FIU does not have investigative powers. Like I said, it's an intelligence agency. We gather intelligence, we analyze it, and we provide law enforcement with information that they can now investigate to determine if someone has committed a particular crime money laundering or financing of terrorism, right? So the FIU is under the Ministry of Finance, and it's not under the Ministry of National Security or any law enforcement type of activity. And we do not prosecute as well. That is strictly within the remit of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. So uh, going to our website would give you a lot of information on what the FIU is, our functions, and you can definitely look at our annual report. We have annual reports from 2010 to 2023, and our latest annual report of 2024 was yesterday laid in Parliament by the Minister of Finance. So that would soon be available on our website to give information to the public on what the FIU would have done over 2024. Thanks.
Well, thanks for clarifying that. And I think it's one of those things where we need to be proactive as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So check out the website. It's fiu.gov.tt, but we will also put it in the comments. I think this is definitely important for all of us because, we all use money. All right. So we do have a question from Candice. But Candice, we're going to get to your question right after the break. She wants to know where should I report my issue, but we'll answer your question right after this break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thanks for joining us today. And if you're doing so from LinkedIn, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing exposing the truth about romance scams in Trinidad and Tobago. And we're joined by Nigel and Maria from the FIU, which is the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. So there's going to be a lot of acronyms today here, guys. I just want you to know, giving you a heads up, but that's okay. I will ask questions on your behalf, but you can also put it in the comment section. So speaking of the comment section, we have one from Candice, and Candice wants to know, where should I report my issue? And I believe this is in reference to what we discussed earlier, which is along the lines of romance scams and folks who are, trying to whittle their way into society and scam people from their money. So where would one report this issue in Trinidad and Tobago? I think Nigel's on mute if he's responding. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So someone who believes that they would have been a victim of a romance scam, their first port of call, so to speak, should be the fraud squad of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to make that report. As Maria said before, they can send a voluntary report to the FIU. However, like I said, we don't do investigations. We would do analysis, and we would still send that same report to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, particularly to the fraud squad. So if you believe that you have been a victim of romance scam, or currently that you are suspecting that you may be, definitely you can make that report to the fraud squad of Trinidad and Tobago. And like I said, you can also indicate to your financial institution, your bank, as the case may be, that you believe that you may have been defrauded of funds, and they themselves as well, based on the legislation, would make a report via a suspicious transaction report, an STR, to the FIU with that information.
Okay, thank you so much for responding, Nigel. We also have a follow-up question, which I find is very interesting. I don't know if we're putting you guys on the spot, but I'd love to hear your feedback. Candice also wants to know, So there's one situation in the scammers they're requesting the purchase of Apple cards. Could you investigate how you can stop the iPhone store, at least have an intervention to minimize?
I will let Maria answer, and I will follow up with additional information.
So the question is, they're requesting the purchase of Apple cards. Could you investigate how to stop the iPhone store? Okay, so again, as Mr. Stoddard would have mentioned, in terms of the investigative part, that would not fall within the remit of the FIUTT. What we would do is that we would still have to pass it to the relevant law enforcement authority. So as Mr. Stoddard would have said previously, the first point of contact should be the Trinidad Tobago Police Service, in particular the fraud squad. In terms of recovering that fund, I guess once we make that report to the police service, you may have, they would then take the investigation further and see what steps they could put in place in order to stop any further transactions.
So, if I may add as well, what we have seen, and probably later on in the discussion it would come up. What we have seen, some of the methods is besides cash, the perpetrator asking the victims for even gift cards as well. In terms of gift cards, you can purchase those gift cards anywhere. You don't need any sort of identification to purchase those cards, and therefore identifying where or who uses the card, because you can use the card to conduct transactions. Now, if there is information relative to phone numbers, even as the person would have said, Apple gift cards, as the case may be, once there's some link to a foreign jurisdiction, like I said, there's 177 FIUs. We can reach out to those FIUs to ask a question in terms of if this information or the person who they claim to be is in fact on the database of that FIU, to provide us with that information. And once they provide, if they have that person and they provide any information relative to that, we then would pass that on to the fraud squad of the TTPS. So yes, we are seeing where persons do use gift cards as one of the methods. Apple Pay card is one of those, but there are other types of gift cards that the perpetrator asks the victims to purchase and send, as the case may be.
Okay. I'd also like to add, as an Apple user, Apple does have a report issue as an option on it, and they're usually quite good at responding. Most apps, I think, within the Apple ecosystem, you get a fairly, timely response. So that's also an option. All right. So I have questions, but that's secondary to what's happening in the comment section. So let's head over there again. Mario Young wants to know, if I fall victim and made a bank transfer, can I ask the bank to stop the transfer and recover my funds? And what is the obligation of the bank in that regard? Thanks for that question, Mario. Who wants to tackle that?
Okay, I was going to let Maria tackle that.
It's fine.
Yeah. So definitely, once you, and we have seen it happen locally in the past, where someone believed that they were defrauded, or in the process of being defrauded, or they would have sent certain funds to someone. They can go to the bank and request that the bank stop the transaction. Now, it depends again on the timing of it, and that is critical, because you can imagine if it is that you, for instance, conduct some transaction, there's within that time frame, you would not or the funds would have been transferred or withdrawn, as the case may be. So in terms of getting back your funds immediately, that may not happen at that point in time. The the other part of it is that, again, the bank would, in fact, once you made that type of, or you provide that type of information to the bank, they would, again, file an STR, a suspicious transaction report, with that information, with all the relevant information pertaining to if there's an account, if it was a wire, who it would have been going to, as the case may be. But you have to be mindful that, especially where you're dealing with wire transfers that go to other jurisdictions, it may be that it's a lot more difficult, of course, to retrieve that funds, because at the end of the day, you are the victim is the one that is actually providing the funds to the perpetrator. Right, Maria, if you have anything else to add as well.
Yeah, just to add, from our analysis of the SDRs, we have noted where most of the victims would have sent money either through a direct cash deposit or through the bank transfers. And as Mr. Stoddard would have mentioned, the difficulty comes in when the money has been withdrawn. And what we have seen in these cases is that usually once the scammer asks for the money and it's sent to the account, the money is usually withdrawn very quickly after that transfer. So just to reiterate, in terms of timeliness, if you believe you have fallen victim, timeliness is very important at this point to alert the bank of what you believe in terms of trying to stop the transaction. Because once the money has been withdrawn from the third party account holder, it then becomes much more difficult for the bank to step in and for you to recover that money.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So I want to continue this conversation, Maria, around the platforms or technologies that are commonly used by scammers to execute these types of frauds in Trinidad Tobago. Can you shed some light on that?
Okay, so I believe my internet would have dropped, so I missed the question.
Sure, no problem. So I wanted to find out what platforms or types of technologies are being used most commonly in Trinidad Tobago to execute these types of frauds.
Okay, no problem. So again, I will go back to what we have seen from our analysis. Most common platforms, you would see our social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, as well as dating websites. What we have noted is that from the dating websites, such as their popular ones, such as Tinder, what the scammer would usually do is take the conversation away from those dating websites to more private conversations through WhatsApp and in some instances through voice calls. So in terms of web platforms, you would see these social media platforms. And there's also even cases of true professional platforms such as LinkedIn, as well as a few cases with email or SMS messaging, where these are utilized to basically entice the victim to start to build that relationship.
That's quite interesting because, we associate platforms with certain things, and you mentioned LinkedIn, which is a tool that we're currently streaming live from, but it's also something we associate with getting a job. So is there like a specific red flag that we should be mindful of? Because for me, I don't even take these things on because I'm like, what do you mean I look good today? That's gross. Get off my platform. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if it is that you are in mentally a lonely state, it may be something that you want to hear. So I'm going to leave this as a sort of a trailer, because you guys are going to have to answer this question afterwards. But just, so many things that we could be mindful of when these things happen for us. So we're hoping that they can answer this question right after the break. We'll be right back. and welcome back to Shade of the BATT, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from YouTube, don't forget to smash that like button so you can continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing exposing the truth about romance scams in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm joined by Nigel and Maria from the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. So just before the break, Maria was sharing what type of platforms we're seeing an increase of folks being reached out for these scams. You have the obvious ones like the dating profiles, like Tinder, but also you have social media platforms that are considered more professional, and folks are being taken off of these platforms. So I want to know if there's anything in particular that somebody should be mindful of, because we spend so much of our time online, and I have made so many friends actually online. But the reality is, not everybody is good and truthful in what they're saying. So, is there any advice you guys can give us as to what's like one of the main things to look out for?
Well, one of the main things is, of course, if this contact leads to the request for money, that's a big red flag. But before you reach to that stage, I would say just noting the way the conversation goes. Because with romance, you have to include in terms of the factor of this whole love and affection. So you would have to note if you find that what we refer to as love bombing, in the sense that within a short space of time, the scammer or the fraudster would be expressing strong emotions to the persons that they reach out to, saying that, you're my soulmate, I've never felt this way before, I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. Now, there are persons who, as you would have mentioned, may be lonely, and these are things that they want to hear. But of course, if you realize that within a short space of time, the person is telling you these things, and after building that trust with you, they then realize that the person is now saying that, they want to access money, some money. But in most cases, what we're seeing, when they ask for this money, it's because they have promised the victim some sort of gift, some sort of package. So in terms of, it's like a cycle in terms of how it occurs. So we have that initial contact, then we have that building of the trust and love and affection, and followed which the person will then, say, I really want to send you this package, jewelry, high-end designer bags. And in a lot of instances, they also tell the victims that they even want to send them a monetary package. So these are things that you have to be mindful of if you realize that conversations are going down this particular line, and then followed which you would find where the person will then say, listen, I have this package for you, but in order for you to receive the package, could you make a deposit into this person's account? And all those are red flags to knowing that, listen, this could be something else. It could just be that this person is not just willingly sending me this, but it is really, a scam, and you're falling victim to that scam.
Thanks for sharing that, Maria. I also want to thank Anne Phillips, who is tuning in from Tobago. So thanks for letting us know where you are at. I want to expand on this through a comment from Candace. Well, actually, a conversation, and I think a question. Sorry, and I think it's relevant to this conversation. Is there any counseling that someone, in terms of victims, who they can chat with after they've experienced this? Because this is also, outside of obviously the physical loss of money, there's a stigma attached to it. There's the embarrassment. There's the mental affecting them. So any suggestions or places to go for people to be counseled if this happens to them?
I would just to follow up a bit on what Maria was saying before. Also, what persons should be mindful of when they're interacting with someone. Just as you said, you may be on LinkedIn. The individual most times avoid video conferencing or video or face-to-face um, contact. Uh, they strictly like to stay towards texting or calling, and that's why they move you to these WhatsApp or Instagram, as the case may be. But again, not a face-to-face to see the person or video, a live interaction or activity. There's always an excuse that why you cannot see them on the camera. Now, in terms of persons who uh, may have fallen victim to the romance scam or other type of scam, the one of the first port of call can be the Trinidad Tobago Police Service. They have a counseling session where they counsel victims, not only for serious crimes, but um, such crimes as these. There are other uh, facilities that you can access, government facilities, whether it be social development, as the case may be, that offer counseling um, for again persons. But definitely, you should seek some level of conflict. The whole idea of romance scam is to basically isolate the person, the victim. So if it is that you find they're telling you, well, don't mention this to to your family members or to a friend, as the case may be, and you realize that the only one who is interacting or dealing with you is the perpetrator. That is something you need to be mindful of in terms of being isolated from uh, other persons. And you are right, it persons see it as a stigma, but again, what the victim has to understand is that they are not totally to blame. They are not at fault. It's person, the perpetrator, who is preying on some emotion that they are seeking. So they should not feel that they having been scammed, that they are isolated or they are alone. Other persons have been scammed. Uh, so what perpetrated even further is that not reporting it or not indicating what would have transpired facilitates other persons becoming victims as well. So there are support in terms of having that counseling. Uh, and again, do not feel that you are alone in this or isolated in this or to feel ashamed in this. It's not your fault as a victim. It's just that uh, perpetrators, like I said, prey on persons' emotions and needs.
Mr. Stoddard, if I could add as well, Ms. Joseph, in terms of, I know Mr. Stoddard mentioned the TTPS Victim and Support Unit within the public service, because we have seen where government professionals have fallen victim to this particular type of scam. Within the government service, there's the Employee Assistance Program with the EAP that persons can reach out to and can access to have that counseling sessions with you, you know, if you're a fallen victim. As well as I would say, if you have a trusted person, whether it be within your religious circle or within your family circle or friend circle, it's always good to talk to that person even before engaging in an online relationship. But I mean, if it has happened, you could also reach out to, you know, within your circles, your religious circle, to get that counseling as well.
Okay, and I think one of the main takeaways here is we're all human, guys. We all make mistakes, and it's okay to have these feelings of guilt and shame. It's also okay to have a conversation about it. So, a lot of times we're in a digital age now where, my friend's 3-year old is opening her mom's YouTube channel to show me her favorite song. And then I have my mother typing in HTTPS on the browser and driving me insane. So there are these two different levels of use of digital. But when it comes to, these scammers and having these conversations, what preventative measures can individuals take, and families, because you may have the more adaptable one to technology versus somebody who's still trying to figure out how to access their online banking. How can we work together as a community to protect ourselves? Who wants to take that? I think you guys are both on mute.
Yeah. Okay. So to pro- to protect yourselves in terms of, just as you indicated, you have different ages using the technology. One person should have an idea of the technology that they are using in terms of uh, whether it's uh, Instagram, whether you're browsing, what are some of the dangers. So even using the same technology, you can Google, use YouTube to find out what are some of the basic information you need to know in terms of use of technology. Uh, coming, having said that as well, as someone who is using technology, you would need to look at some other aspects. You can someone send a photo of themselves saying that they are this person, identified as a person trying to establish that relationship with you. There is technology in terms of where you can search that photo, to verify again whether or not that photo is real, or if it's a photo from someone else website or someone else social media profile. Um, you can again do other um, checks on the internet to try and verify who you're actually dealing with or speaking with. You can again put in your name, do some searches, do some background to verify, because not just someone coming online and saying that they are John Brown or Jane Doe and they are a doctor in working as an aide in a country that is providing aid, and we don't have connection now and then, and so on. All those are excuses that someone gives you. But you, as a person using the technology, you need to verify, check and verify. You won't be able to verify every single thing, but there may be some things that you, when you check, might give you pause to question and ask um, additional questions as well. All right. So those are some of the things that you need to look out for. I think Maria would have some more pointers as well.
Yes, just to add, as Mr. Salwood have mentioned, I think one of the first line of defense would be to educate. You educate yourself and educate the ones around you, especially the older ones, about these platforms. The same way as you mentioned, the 3-year-old would know. Encourage that sort of communication between the 3-year-old and the elderly so that they would be aware of the platforms and how to use it. So I would say knowledge is always the first line of defense. And of course, educate persons, especially the elderly as well, about common scam tactics. So for example, we know about romance scam, explain to them what is happening, what are some of the red flags in terms of professing love quickly. The person is avoiding the video calls, as Mr. Sutter would have mentioned. Their claims to be in a foreign country. These are all things that you could educate persons about in terms of protecting themselves if they are venturing into an online relationship. And of course, as Mrs. Salwood have mentioned, be cautious when using these platforms. So as much as possible, try to verify the profile. Google would have certain things where you could search images. So you could also, if the person sends you an image, you could search that image and see what comes up, just as a first line of trying to find out a little bit more about this person before you go any deeper with this individual. Of course, you would always want to tell them, don't overshare too much things on their social media posts, such as your address, your workplace, your travel plans, um, try to limit your friend requests in the sense that if a stranger initiates contact, understand the context in which it's happening, and maybe just be mindful to see how it progresses as well. Um, these are things that persons could employ as they move forward into this technological sphere, especially in educating the older persons.
Okay. I think there's a lot to be learned from all of us because with technology changing so quickly, all of us need to rely on each other. So when we come back, we will have a discussion around what exactly is out there for us to learn. How can we learn more about this? Because we have to be proactive in this space when it comes to romance scams in Trinidad and Tobago. So we'll be right back.
But that was like my first experience with money. Very, very first experience.
I've been in banking since I was a teenager.
And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from Facebook, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing exposing the truth about romance scams in Trinidad and Tobago. And we're joined by Nigel and Maria from the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago, also known as the FIUTT. So we'll bring them back in. Before we went on a break, we wanted to find out proactively what we can do to learn more. And for those who may have missed at the beginning, we have mentioned a few times a report that was created by the FIU. You can check the comment section to download that report because, guys, we need to be proactive here. Learning never stops. So we have a question from Candice, but we were going to get to that in a bit. I just wanted to cover this conversation around what can we do and what exactly is happening in terms of campaigns and initiatives to educate the public about romance scams in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, besides the Straight Off the Bat show, you know what I mean? What else is happening?
Okay, so in terms of educating the public about romance scam, as you know, the FIU website, we do have this report published. We have also joined with Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, where we have issued a number of advisories relating to romance scam. And this has been circulated both on the TTPS website as well as the FIUTT website. It has also been shared with the financial institutions where they could share on their platforms as well. We also have the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago that in terms of their leading campaigns to the general public to inform them of these type of scams as well. So there are a couple of platforms that this information is available on as it relates to public awareness. The FIUTT we're also part of with the TTPS, the CBSI or the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, where we have these roundtable discussions. And romance fraud was actually one of the major topics that would have been discussed and would have been shared throughout the region as it relates to what is happening, not just in Trinidad, but regionally as well. So these are all platforms that we use. In addition, through our compliance and outreach division, when our officers go to these outreach sessions, they also inform the reporting entities of some of the trends that we are seeing here at the FIUTT. So in order to just, again, spread the awareness of this particular type of scam.
Okay, thanks for that. So we want to head over to the comment section. Anthony on LinkedIn, you had made a comment earlier, but I'm not sure if that was a question, but thank you for joining us on LinkedIn. So you're going to head back to Candice. She's on Facebook. And Candice, I feel this comment. Over a year, I've been trying to reason with my relative. She's being scammed. I tried police pundit and the entire family. Do we have any advice to give to Candice?
Yes, and it's difficult. Uh, it's sadly to say it's not common that, sorry, it's not uncommon that persons are informed of the person that they are being scammed, that it is a scam. We have had financial institutions, not only banks, but remittance services, uh, actually blocking persons, their customers, from conducting transactions because it's a scam. And they still find other means of trying to send money to the perpetrators. So it is a difficult situation. Uh, we have as well, where we have identified through the suspicious transaction report, we have invoked the fraud squad, and they themselves would have spoken to the victim, the family as well, informing them that it is a fraud, that it is a scam, and sadly to say, uh, the victim is so convinced because, as we said, in reaching to that point, there's a relationship, a bond that has been established over a period of time. And regardless of what uh, relatives may say, or authorities may say, the victim is still convinced that the person that they're dealing with, the perpetrator, is a legitimate person. For instance, and as I said before, they definitely try to isolate the victim so that, in terms of that, I don't want to say control, but that relationship is built even stronger. For instance, recently you would have seen in the newspapers where uh, a mature lady from Trinidad would have left Trinidad and Tobago and went to Brazil to meet someone. And you might be thinking, why? Again, it's, that relationship wouldn't have been developed over a period of time, and it's not instant arrangement, so to speak. So it involves counseling. It involves trying to show the victim um, the the reason why it's a scam. And again, I've seen, even in Australia, yes, Australia, where a lady was scammed, and they they did a report. They went to the country where the scammers were setting up and doing the scam. And the same time they called the victim, showed her that it's a scam. They had authorities there, and everything. The same person she was talking to. When she heard the voice, realized that it's the same, the person that she was establishing this romantic relationship with. And sad to say, um, after she had stopped, closed that account, she opened another account, and within a month's time, she again went back to online, and another person um, was scamming her relative to the same type of romance scam. So um, we can do as much as we can in terms of understanding, not to get too upset with your family member, uh, but it's you have to realize that it's an emotional bond, a trust that was established between the victim and the perpetrator, and it would take time in removing that bond. What you may have to do is be mindful of all the different uh, social media apps that the person may be using, uh, to have some sort of monitoring system on it so that you can be aware, be mindful of the access to funds that the person may have, and to be aware that who and what they are purchasing or transferring funds for. So those are things that you can do to. to prevent and limit, but it comes back to um, disengaging that person from that bond that they have established with the perpetrator.
Wow, that sounds very difficult, and especially when you're seeing it, it's very hard not to want to try to help. So we're gonna close off. We wanna get your key takeaway, your opinion, because the whole point of this session was, we're exposing the truth about romance scams in Trinidad and Tobago, and we're a week away from Valentine's Day. Guys, it's also the day after my birthday, so whatever, so a lot of us are using, as single people, going online, dating, swiping left, swiping right. So I wanted to get your takeaway. I want to start with Maria. What is a key takeaway from this? Because we are living a digital world where we are doing a lot of things that we would have usually done in person. We're doing it online. So I wanted for you to give us advice, because everything that's been shared here, it's nice to have it in theory, but I want a key takeaway for the viewers out there. So let's start with Maria.
Okay, so for me, my one line would be real love should not come with a financial request. So I'm saying this because it's based on what we would have seen from our analysis. I know we didn't go into figures, but for the period of 2020 to 2022, we had victims, total dollar value being lost at around 6.7 million. So with that being said, I would just want to tell persons, just really be mindful about sending money to persons that you have met online. Real love should not come with any financial requests. So you need to protect your heart as well as your wallet. So, I just really wanted to put that point there in terms of the money being lost. It's a lot of money victims are losing, and they really need to be mindful of this scam that is taking place. Yes, it may not happen in the magnitude that it was, but it still happens. So just be vigilant and be safe.
Thank you so much for that, Maria. And Nigel, anything to add there?
Yes, just briefly. Um, what what I want persons to realize that this is um, a real problem, a real issue, and is not something to be treated with lightly. The reports that Maria mentioned, you would have received 96, and that is only what the bank would have identified in terms of suspicious transaction reports. The fraud squad would have received 124 reports. And they, in total, for the 2-year period, we are looking at over $11 million Trinidad Tobago currency that was lost by persons who would have been victims of romance scam. So what I would say as a takeaway, treat it as if you are meeting the person face to face. If it is that you're dating someone or you're entering into a relationship with someone locally right here, you would definitely find out where the person really living, where they're working. Ask a whole set of questions. You know this person. Okay, you're online now. You can't do that to that extent. But again, it comes back to using what you have online in terms of the different search tools to try to meet that same standard you would have for dating someone in person. And just as Maria said, protect your heart and your wallet. Once requests start to come in terms of funds, asking for funds, know that, and there's always an excuse why it is that the package didn't receive, or customs sees it, or you have to get a FIU clearance, or you have to get a financial action transfer task force clearance. All these excuses, which would encourage you now to send more money and to keep sending more money. So again, do your checks using what you have online to verify as best as you can before you fully engross yourself into an online relationship.
Okay, and on that note, we will end today's session. Sorry we couldn't get to Ruthlyn's question today. Thanks again to Citron for joining us on YouTube. Once again, thank you so much for Nigel and Maria from the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago, for joining us today and sharing insight into exposing the truth about romance scams in Trinidad and Tobago. Don't forget to sign up to be notified about the next live show via the comments. Everything that was discussed, the report and how to access FIU website is mentioned in our comment section. So check it out. It's either there or there, depending on where you're watching it. As always, be sure to like and follow our pages across social media so you don't miss a single live show. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.